You're listening to the CIP podcast, the Study Abroadcast, Season 3, Episode 9. I'm your host, Mike, an Education Abroad Advisor with the Center for International Programs. In this show, we explore the world of study abroad, offering advice, insights, and travel stories, bridging perspectives and cultures along the way. On this episode, we'll be speaking with two University of Guelph students who are currently on exchange in Fiji, and we'll be learning how they're immersing and adapting to this new culture. So today on the show, we are pleased to welcome Dale and Melanie. To get started, can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and your exchange thus far in Fiji?
Hi everyone, my name is Mel. I am a third-year human kinetics student at Guelph. I was originally meant to come to Fiji last winter, but it was canceled with COVID. I think it definitely worked out for the better. I'm really happy that I got to come this year, and it has been quite the adventure so far. There have been a lot of learning and growing happening. But I am definitely loving it here so far. It's a very, very different experience, nothing that Guelph could ever offer. And so I'm so happy that I put in all the hard work to make this happen, because it's been so worth it.
Yeah, it was definitely, I think, devastating for a lot of students and for a lot of people in the international mobility sector. But I think now people realize, those things happen for a reason, and now at least students have the opportunity to go out and travel. How's the experience been for you, Dale?
So, first of all, my name's Dale. I am a third-year sociology student. It's been great so far. The way I got here was I first went to Australia, spent a little bit of time there since the semester does start a bit later here. And my experience here has just been great so far. Everyone's really friendly. There's been a lot of great opportunities, dances and learning new words and eating new fruits and just having lots of new experiences in general.
Sounds amazing. I'm definitely envious. So I know that most students probably think of exchange. They think of Paris or London. What made you decide to take the plunge and end up in Fiji and the University of the South Pacific?
For me, it was actually you, Mike. You might remember this, that when we were first chatting, we were talking about different locations, and I'd mentioned that I've lived and worked abroad in Ireland and Austria. So you kind of told me, you've traveled a lot of the European scene, and you recommended I go somewhere really different with different culture and somewhere that would really challenge me and push me to go outside of my comfort zone. And even, you said Australia, New Zealand, very similar to Western culture. And so you said personally you had been to Fiji. You really highly recommended it, and I had the marks to apply for it. And so it turned into a bit more of a why not Fiji than a why Fiji. I didn't know anyone in my life who had ever been to Fiji. And I love warm destinations, and not a big fan of winter. So it definitely seemed like an opportunity. When else would I get to go and spend 6 months there and really learn the culture in terms of being able to study and live there at the same time?
Yeah, I think most people think of Fiji as like a holiday destination that they might get to for a week or two in their life, but to really do this for an extended period of time is extremely precious, and it sounds like you're making the most of it thus far. So I guess the same question for you, Dale. What made you choose Fiji, or how did you end up there?
So originally, just based on past people in my program who have been on the Scotland exchange, I was looking forward to that and getting to explore all over Europe. But when I used the CIP's search tool on the website, I put in programs that were in English, and I spent a lot of time going through each options, and I saw Fiji. And like Mel said, I was kind of like, well, why not? It's quite different. I'd be going here when it was winter back home, winter in Europe, and I wanted somewhere with a bit of a warmer climate. I wanted to do something completely different, and this was definitely the option to do that. Like Mel said as well, when would I ever get the opportunity to come here and spend this much time here and really become a part of the culture?
I can see, just for the listeners, that you have this beautiful sort of green, lush, tropical view from your window. What's it like just in terms of stepping out and being within the palm trees?
It's definitely still a bit surreal. I love Guelph, but I'm not going to lie, whenever I walk around campus, I just kind of think Guelph could never, because of how green it is and all the flowers and the tropical plants and the palm trees everywhere. And it's almost like you're in the rainforest, but on campus. It's such a beautiful campus, and the weather is just so consistent. It's going to be hot and humid every day. You really don't have to check the weather forecast. It's going to rain at some point every day. But it's just been so nice to be somewhere warm, and albeit it is hot. Like, we do sweat a lot, but it's such a beautiful place. Just so green, so lush. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful. I just walk around campus sometimes and I can't even believe that, I'm living here. I have to constantly tell myself, no, this isn't just a vacation. Like, you've been here for a couple months now and you will be here for a few more months. Like Mel said, it is very hot. There is not a lot of AC everywhere, and it is an adjustment period, but it's definitely worth it for all the beautiful views and sights this place has to offer.
So in terms of adjustment, I know that the Islander lifestyle seems so relaxed and very chill. How are you managed, or how are you able to adapt to Fiji from a cultural perspective?
This is a very big question, because I would say nearly everything about Fiji is very different from what we're used to back home. And so I definitely really struggled in the first couple weeks, just thinking, man, I would just love something that's the same as home, because, you have to get used to everything being different, especially for me, like living at home and commuting to school to now living with a bunch of roommates on campus. That was a big adjustment. But in terms of just Fiji life and Fiji culture, it's new people, new food, new time schedules, figuring out a new city. It's just, you have to know that everything is going to be different, and you have to be willing to be flexible and roll with the punches and just say, okay, like, I know I'm very new here and it's going to take some time for me to figure it out, and just kind of embrace it as much as you can. Look for, the beauty and the little quirks of this new culture, and, kind of figure out what you can deal with, and things that you can't deal with, figure out what are different options to make that a little better or a little bit more bearable. But on a whole, it's been such a great experience to learn how so many other cultures live, and kind of also adopt some of their cultural ways too, and not just try and be stuck in your own, small town Canadian way living here.
Yeah, I definitely say you have to be ready to go with the flow. Before I came here, there was not much accurate research available about living here, especially for tourists, which, I don't consider us tourists. There are some aspects where we are, and other aspects where I definitely feel like a local, especially when we attend things like markets, go even to the shopping mall. But to help with that, I'd say really like lean on your peers. The international office is quite helpful here, and everyone is really friendly. You can go up to anyone and ask them for help, and usually they'll be able to help you. Especially like even when I first got here, on the plane, right away I met a lady who said, "Oh, do you have family here?" She gave me her number, told me to keep in contact, that she has a car. If I ever need, she works at a bank. So everyone here is really ready and they're willing to help you.
Sounds amazing. I know Fijians are so hospitable and generous, and very kind with what they have. So I guess that leads into the next question, I guess. What's been your favorite part of Fijian culture so far?
I think I love trying different foods. I've really enjoyed hunting down all the different fruit here and getting to experience it with the people here, especially the local feasts and going to the villages, and everyone's just welcoming and so accepting.
Yeah, I think just definitely the attitude of people too. I was talking with someone, and he was saying that, the reason Fijians are so, they have that reputation of being so happy and so laid back is that they only worry about today. Like, they're not worried about tomorrow. Like, yes, everyone has mortgages and families to feed and all this, but they really only focus on today and what today can bring and what they can do. So they're really just living life at the pace it's meant to be lived at, whereas I think at home it's always, what's next in the hustle and bustle. And yeah, everyone is just so friendly and willing to talk to you. And even, obviously we're pretty obvious that most people think we're tourists here, but just the other day when we were in the shop, they asked, oh, where are you from? And so we said, Canada, America, Australia, that sort of thing. And they're like, oh, are you just visiting? We said, no, we're studying at USP. And they just thought it was fantastic that we're actually staying here for a while and living with locals and getting to know the culture. So they're almost a bit shocked. They're like, oh, wow, like you chose to come study here. And we're like, yeah, it's pretty awesome. So yeah, everyone's just really happy to have you here and talk to you.
I'm sure Suva being a port city, that there's a lot of perhaps tensions with the big cruise ships coming in and tourists coming in for a few days and leaving. But I'm sure they appreciate people being here and exploring the country for so long. You mentioned a little bit about the differences. Are there any cultural similarities that you picked up on between life in Canada and life in Fiji? Anything similar?
No.
Honestly, when we thought about this, not really.
Yeah. There's a McDonald's here. I'd say that's it.
Yeah, I mean, if you go like down to the basics, people are really friendly in Canada, people are really friendly here, but it's definitely to a different level here. And it's taken some getting used to, in the way that you're kind of like, does this person, how genuine are they in their wanting to say hi and talk to you, and you get a little bit caught off guard, but they really just want to interact with you. I would say at home, if you're walking down the street, people wouldn't really say, hi, how are you, as you pass several people. But on my walk between campuses, almost everyone I pass will say, hi, how are you, that sort of thing. I wouldn't say that's a similarity at all.
Next question. What are you looking forward to the most about your remaining time in Fiji?
I think just more of what we're doing. It's been a bit hard to process that we're nearly at the halfway point, which is slightly terrifying. It's been going so fast, and so I think just really trying to make the most of our weekends and our free days off of school to go and explore different parts of Fiji. I know a lot of us have plans to travel over the mid-semester break, but it's been going so fast. And so I think we're all just trying to clutch onto it the best we can and not take for granted the fact that we are living here. It's a pretty insane opportunity. And we were all thinking about, we'll never have this chance again, really, to be with this amazing group of people. Yeah, I think just exploring more, trying more food, seeing more beautiful sights, meeting more people. Really just something more of the same that we've been trying to do.
We're looking forward to doing as much as we can. While I was here, me and a couple of Australians and the American, went and got our diver's license. So I am definitely looking forward to putting that to use. And other than that, just exploring the beautiful opportunities Fiji has to offer.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. And I think you also have this opportunity to meet other Polynesians. You mentioned knowing people from Tonga and Vanuatu, and hopefully in the future you have that opportunity to explore other islands and sort of the nuances between these different cultural groups. I think that's pretty amazing. In terms of giving other students advice, in terms of being culturally effective abroad, what advice would you give students who are thinking about going somewhere perhaps outside of the traditional realm of going to Europe?
I think for me, the biggest thing is you have to have an open mind and you have to be willing to understand that not everyone lives in Western culture like we do in North America and Europe, and kind of Australia, New Zealand. And because of that, you will learn so much. I've learned about so many countries that I hadn't even heard of before, and just getting to learn different aspects of culture. For example, here, like your head is a really sacred part, and so it's considered really rude to touch someone on their head. And so you just kind of have to be aware that there's going to be things that you didn't know about, and you're going to make mistakes, and you just have to, take it and learn from it, and just make the most of it. I think this opportunity is definitely one that you can't really repeat, or you won't get again. So I think it's so important to take it if you have it. And yes, like I love Europe. Europe is wonderful, but this is such an amazing, rich, diverse place. And as long as you come with an open mind and be willing to adapt and learn and, maybe make some sacrifices for a few months, then you will have one of the best experiences of your life.
Dale, how about you? Is there any advice you give students who are thinking about going abroad?
I'd say definitely get ready for things to not go exactly as you planned, and really take that opportunity and go with it. Every opportunity you're given or experience you're invited to, just say yes. That's the best advice I can give, and you'll come out of it with a lot of new experiences. Yeah, don't be afraid to ask the international office anything. Really lean on your friends for support here. We have, I'd say, made a nice support group. Yeah, support group.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. Definitely, being on the end of this call, I can feel the passion that you have both for taking on this new adventure. And I wish you two both an amazing rest of your journey. Anything else you'd like to add before we close off here today?
I think just as Dale mentioned that, there's definitely an adjustment period and you have to be ready for things to not go as planned. And I think just as you said there, part of our passion and love for this country has come from the struggles that we've been through to get here and, struggling to adapt the first little while. And it was a bit of the blind leading the blind, leaning on each other, trying to navigate this journey in the beginning. And you definitely go through a bit of imposter syndrome, being like, what am I doing here? Am I supposed to be here? Was this the right decision? But I think it's just so important to trust yourself and really listen to yourself and know that you can do this and it will get better. And now we absolutely love it here. It was not work, or it wasn't without struggle, but it was 100% worth it. So you just have to trust the process a little bit. And I know already some of us have been thinking about how are we going to have to leave this place? Like, it's going to be really, really sad. And that's actually something else I wanted to mention is one thing that was really helpful with the CIP is the kind of the program we went through. And with travel, I've known this before, but you really kind of explained how there is that struggling period of trying to adapt and then you get adapted. And then same thing on the way home, is there will be a bit of reverse culture shock that I think people need to be aware of. And I know it's probably going to hit pretty hard because of the difference between these two places. So it just kind of ties in hand, making the most of your time here and not really wishing for things at home, because you know you're going to go back there eventually. So I think just being aware of those two aspects of culture shock is really important. But, you know, just take the leap. This is the best thing you could ever do with your university degree. And so many people have told me that they wish they had gone abroad in their undergrad.
Yeah, I think that's a completely other podcast that we could do on in terms of returning home and adjusting to life back home.
Yeah.
I'm sure, just to forecast a bit, I would imagine that life is very the pace of life is very different, and then to go back home and to adapt or go back to the way things were, it's going to be a bit difficult, but I'm sure as you've done there, you'll do here, and you'll continue to adapt. So with that said, that's all for today's episode of the Study Abroadcast. Don't forget to explore your own study abroad opportunities on the CIP website at uofguelph.ca/CIP, or follow us on Facebook or Instagram. Our Instagram handle is CIP_Guelph. Bula Vinaka, thanks for listening, and thanks to Dale and Melanie for sharing their advice, insights, and travel stories. Stay tuned to our next episode, where we look to unpack the study abroad experience even further.